The new apartment, Lena thought she had found the perfect place. A cheap one-bedroom apartment in the city, clean, fully furnished, and, most importantly, affordable. The landlord was eager to rent it out, barely letting her finish signing the lease before shoving the keys into her hands. "One thing," he muttered, "don't use the second bedroom." Lena blinked. "But it's a one-bedroom apartment." The landlord hesitated. "Just keep the door closed." She laughed, thinking it was some weird superstition. She should have listened. The door that won't stay shut for the first few nights, nothing seemed wrong. The apartment was cozy, the neighbors were quiet, and life felt normal. Then she noticed the door. The second bedroom door. She was sure it had been closed, but every morning she'd find it slightly open. Just an inch, just enough to see the darkness inside. At first she blamed the draft. The building was old, the floors uneven. It was logical, until she heard the breathing, the room that watches. Late one night, curled up in bed, Lena woke to a soft, slow exhale. Not hers. It came from down the hall. Her heart pounded as she sat up, the silence stretching, suffocating. She reached for her phone, using the screen's glow to light the hallway. The door to the second bedroom was wide open. A shape stood inside, not moving, not breathing, just watching. Then, in the dim light of her phone screen, she saw it, a reflection in the bedroom mirror. But the figure wasn't facing the mirror. It was facing her, the shadow in the mirror. Lena couldn't move, couldn't scream. The figure stood just inside the second room, its body featureless, its head tilted too far to the side. Then, in one smooth motion, it crawled into the mirror. The reflection swallowed it whole, and the door slammed shut. Lena sat frozen, her chest heaving. The air felt thick, electric, as if the apartment itself was holding its breath. Slowly she crept forward, reached out, gripped the doorknob, and turned. The room that was never empty. The second bedroom was normal, empty. Just an old wooden chair in the center of the room, facing the mirror. But on the walls, carved deep into the wood, were words, "Let me out." The breath hit her neck before she could turn. The whisper curled into her ear. "Now you've seen me." The lights flickered. The mirror rippled, and the reflection stepped forward. Lena stumbled backward, nearly tripping over her own feet. Her body screamed at her to run, but she was frozen, trapped in the heavy silence of the room. The figure in the mirror wasn't just a reflection anymore. Its hands pressed against the glass, fingers stretching unnaturally long, the tips of its nails scraping softly against the surface. Then it pushed. A slow, agonizing press that sent spiderweb cracks rippling through the mirror. The air around Lena turned ice-cold, her breath visible in the dim light. The thing inside the glass smiled. And then, a single word formed on the cracked surface, scrawled in something dark and wet. "Run." Part 2. The mirror is open. Lena turned and ran. The hallway stretched impossibly long, the apartment warping around her. The lights flickered violently, throwing jagged shadows across the walls. Behind her, the mirror shattered. But instead of breaking apart, the shards hung in the air, trembling. Then they shifted. Piece by piece, they slid back together, forming something new. A doorway. From within, the figure stepped through. It was no longer a reflection. It was real. The thing that wears her face. Lena stumbled into the living room, gasping for breath. She grabbed her phone, hands shaking, and tried to call someone, anyone. No service. A voice whispered behind her, perfectly matching her own. "Where are you going?" Lena turned. Standing in the dim light was herself, but its eyes were wrong. Deep black void stretched too wide, filled with something shifting and alive. Its mouth twitched at the edges, curling into a grotesque mimicry of a smile. It took a step forward. "You left the door open," it whispered. "Now I get to stay." Lena ran for the front door, but the knob wouldn't turn. The lock was gone. Behind her, the doppelganger laughed. "Where do you think you're going? This is our home now." The final choice. Lena pressed herself against the door, chest heaving. She couldn't escape. but maybe she could trap it. Her eyes darted to the mirror shards still glistening on the floor. The figure lunged. With every ounce of strength, Lena grabbed a shard and slashed it across her palm. Blood splattered onto the glass. A deafening scream erupted from the figure as the mirror pulled it back. The apartment shuddered. The lights flared. The thing shrieked in rage as it was ripped from reality, sucked back into the reflection. The moment it disappeared, the mirror snapped shut. Lena collapsed onto the floor, gasping. The apartment was silent. The second bedroom door was closed. But this time she didn't dare open it. She stood, her knees shaking, and grabbed her bag. She was never staying here again. As she turned to leave, she caught one last glimpse of the mirror. Her reflection was still smiling.